What's up, everybody? It's Steve Braconi with Team Braconi, back with Faithful Alfredo, and so excited today to have Katerina on the podcast. She's one of our agent who has absolutely been excellent in every regard. We'll talk a little bit about what's special about her, but how her path has kind of led to where she is now. And just a little introduction. I'll give kind of a few things that I know of, and then you can kind of give us a little bit of background. But I know that you immigrated from Russia at 15 years old, which is remarkable in itself. What I didn't know was that you came alone without family. And I imagine, at least if you already knew something, you can tell us, but if you already knew the language, you had to polish up on it. And having moved around the country myself, I worked for a venture capital firm. I lived in 7 different states, but I knew the language. I grew up here, but just having that experience, which I'm not comparing to yours, but it's difficult even to move around as an adult, never mind a 15-year-old child, within a country, knowing the language, growing up here, and having to kind of redo yourself or, make friends and learn the area and learn where to eat, where to go to the gym, which was important to me, kind of know what the heck is going on, right? So for you to do that at that young age, I imagine, amongst other things, that's something that probably has shaped you a bit.
Yes, the biggest impact.
If you could just...
Yes, so my parents sent me here to study, so I didn't really have any choice. When I came here, I think that the younger you are, actually, the easier it is in a weird way, because right now I can't really imagining, moving that much. But I think when you're this young,
because you probably don't know any better, right?
Exactly. I mean, I didn't have any choice. I remember my dad did say that he asked me, but I don't remember being asked, So, and I think even though I wasn't very adventurous, even though I was like a home girl, I was like staying home, and I was very attached to, my mom and my dad. But this is the biggest, I think that all the hard things we're going through, that's what shapes us. And that's why I think, and I understand everybody's, afraid and nervous about all those hard things, but that's what makes us bigger.
Was that going into high school? Is that the age?
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be such a tough thing, because you kind of have your friends and you're going to a different country.
It was very interesting. And I didn't really, although I thought I knew English, I didn't know it well enough. So I definitely didn't understand a lot of things for a longest time. But then, I think I was okay not understanding, for a while. It was in the middle of America. I mean, it was in Pennsylvania, but it was like near Pittsburgh.
It felt like the middle of America.
It was, it was, like in the middle of nowhere. It was very American family. It was very interesting. And it was also interesting. They were showing to me things like, oh, this is dishwasher. This is where you wash dishes. And actually, I didn't know what dishwasher was, funny enough, and then I did know what was other things. But so it was very,
I guess things we take for granted. And I didn't know that, but I alluded to, even if you were, because I studied languages as well, although I wasn't very good at languages. But for example, I studied Spanish in high school and in middle school. But if I had ever gone to Spain or any Spanish-speaking country, there's absolutely no way I would have had really any idea what they were saying, especially if they were speaking quickly.
It was, it was very interesting, because my first year was, and I think I also believe in life, everything is happening for me, so my first year was there, and that's what I learned the most, English. And then my second year, my parents sent me to boarding school, and it was with already English. That's when I could excel with friends and everything. So it was like a first base which I needed.
Do you think that changed how you maybe have perspective on things, view things, how you interact with people and go through life? It did.
I think, just being by yourself and figuring things out by yourself also, although my parents were very supportive, but even then we didn't have WhatsApp or, we couldn't really call international. There was a calling card, and you only had like a specific
pretty expensive too,
limit of time. And also most of the things I was going through, they didn't even know. So everything I learned from the experience. I came here, and I thought I was very smart, because I studied, chemistry for like 6 years before. And I said, you know what, I'm going to AP chemistry, because, that's where I belong. And I came in and I was like, whoa, I have no idea what it is. So, things like that I had to learn on my own and figure out, like, nobody was there to tell me, how you shouldn't go to AP chemistry because it's actually college level,
Right.
not necessary. And
when you're learning in a different language.
Yeah, in a different language.
Also,
Yeah.
but that's what I thought, chemistry out of all the things, I should know.
We'll fast forward a little bit because of the interest of time with the podcast, but you have 17 years sales experience, I think, in aluminum, and then you're in the fashion industry. You're a photographer by background. You've done wedding photography, and you're clearly artistic. How has that path led you to do real estate? Because I think all of those things have assisted the process, because we're watching your trajectory and it's impressive. So I think those things, as you went through those things in life, I think it's really helped prepare you for the real estate industry.
Yes. And I think especially fashion industry, because it's very specific. It was one of the biggest learning growths for me. It was because I had to learn how to be extremely detail oriented. There were just so many specifics. And that's, for me, one of the most important things in real estate, and which I actually took from fashion industry, was the fact that you have to, when you say you will, like, do something, you have to. I'm sometimes, my client is telling me something and I'm just writing it down. And I always tell them I'm writing it down. And sometimes I don't even get to it right away, but it's always there and I always get it eventually. And that's one of the things I'm priding myself in, always saying what I will do. And also helping, answering questions. Even if I don't know, I'll find that out, so.
You definitely do. And I think your father was in real estate or a developer
he was
in Moscow. So you probably grew up around it.
Ish, when he started, yes. So basically, I wasn't very involved in it, but I always, knew houses and buildings. Like, that was, language I was hearing a lot.
We're similar there. My grandfather, my father, my family in Italy are all involved in real estate and development. So I think it helps. Same thing. Like, I tagged around with my dad a little bit when I was growing up, but I didn't know, I wasn't studying real estate as a kid.
Right, yes.
But just being around it, you kind of get used to kind of what to expect and the hours that he was working and the days he was working, and you kind of become used to that. With one of the, you have so many attributes, but we're going to touch on a few. But one of the main things I saw from day one when you came on the team through today is your consistent attitude. It's positive, of course, but you also, I related it, and I was telling you earlier, we were laughing, to a story my mom used to read me when I was a kid, and it was simple. It's pig will and pig won't. And it's just like it sounds. The characters are pigs, but pig will would always find the way to do something and always say yes, no problem, I'll figure it out. Yes, I'll get it done. And pig won't was the opposite. You're pig will. You're not a pig, but you always are willing to do it. You're always willing to go above and beyond. And even to your point, if I feel like you didn't know the answer, or none of us have all the answers, or you need to do research or ask me or someone else on the team something, you're always going above and beyond to figure out what you could do to be in the best interest of your client and represent them properly and provide them information that's accurate.
I think that one of my core beliefs is to be grateful and helpful, but helpful not, in the way, when I help, I'm learning also so much. And every experience is helping me, So, for example, when you ask, it's a little different when you ask if women do photos. I always do.
I was going to mention that.
I like
because
to
selfishly, I
people.
want you there because you do have the fashion background.
Right.
You have an excellent eye. You've texted me, hey, do you mind if I go do it? Like, move whatever you think, or, you have that skill, which is appreciated.
But also, I'm sorry, being in a house and kind of seeing the apartment or house, and then seeing how you price it, and then seeing how it goes, how quickly it goes, how slowly it goes, and kind of, watching you a little bit, but that advantage of actually getting there first before everyone, kind of like being in the process from the beginning. And that's, again, it goes back to learning. The third thing I'm very passionate about is that's why I'm there at every meeting, because I just want to learn.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what you said before is I'm helping, but you're basically saying I'm helping someone else, but I'm also helping myself, because I feel the same way when I do the Monday evening, because I'm reiterating stuff that I already know to help others, but at the same time it's just I'm practicing whatever it is I'm saying. I'm it's a learning process for both parties. So it's very insightful, and I think that is something you do very well.
Thank you.
I think also your perception of things is very different than most people that I have experience with. And this is an example. If I ask for volunteers in the team, you're always, if not the first, one of the first people say, I'll do it, I'm there, whatever. The difference is after that process is over or during that process, you text me almost every single time, I appreciate it, thank you. Even though you're helping me, you're looking at it like I'm either getting experience from this, or I'm going to learn something from this, or I'm putting effort forward, so something good is going to come out of this. And that I don't think we could teach. I think that's something that maybe going back to your background, the things you've gone through, your personality, whatever it is, that's not really a skill. That's more of a personality trait that I think is phenomenal. And I think that's part of the reason that you've been successful at a very quick pace.
Thank you. Yeah, well, another thing, for example, Monday meetings, which we have, and I'm extremely grateful for them, and I'm extremely grateful for your time, because even yesterday, the topics that you covered when I came in, I was like, I know it, I've been, doing it for a while, but nevertheless, I sat there and I was like, is there anything that I ever had questions about? And that's when I asked you like 2 or 3 questions. So even though I knew it, I still had questions, like, how do you do it? You know, and that's what I'm grateful for you sharing because everybody's doing things different. There's no right or wrong answer.
Well, we were laughing because I think you had asked me my opinion, and then you asked Alfredo's opinion, and maybe one other agent, which is great. It's just like not many people do that. If they call me, that's kind of all right.
But now I think everybody's doing that, right?
That's good. That's good. And I wasn't aware of that, but you started that trend to get more than one person's opinion. With regards to your trajectory, as far as just not only just volume of sales and rentals and the process of making commissions, closing the deals, but more so, or equally so, your ability to learn with these files and excel on a level where you just keep coming up a level as far as professionalism. And you're always professional. I don't mean that in that way. I mean knowledgeable.
Right.
I mean experience. I mean learning immediately from something that wasn't even necessarily a mistake, but maybe something we could have done better. Right. It's like implemented immediately, and it's not something you do again. You're already ahead of that at that time because you've seen something similar. You have that ability to adjust. What would you attribute your trajectory? Because we see 3 types of agents, generally speaking, when they come on the team. One would be taking off like you are, and sometimes unsustainable, which you're not. You just keep gaining ground. The other is sort of in the middle, where this is coachable and we can get this person past these sort of things to excel. And then there's the third tier that kind of sputters, and that's usually due to effort. Amongst sometimes other things, but usually efforts primarily. But anyway, you're in the top tier as far as trajectory, clearly. What do you attribute that for?
I think one of the most important things is having a goal and knowing where you want to be. And, I remember when, I don't know if you remember this, but when we had our first interview conversation, you said, what's your goal? And I gave you like impossible number, and you were like, you can do it. I didn't fully I didn't get, there was a number, right? Numeric goal. I didn't get it last year, but I think that, versus what I had before, it was like crazy still, so this year I have twice as much, that first goal, not the number that I got. And I think, just having that, and when I say number, for me, number is not financial. For me is where, when I said that number, sometimes people kind of, I don't know what discouraged. They're like, don't put monetary number as your goal. But for me, monetary number is the person who I will become, who is able to earn this much money. So it's not, but because I don't know how else to measure it, number of sales, maybe that's a good one. So that's what I'm also doing. But I think, so
we're ranked on commission. Units as well,
true.
But commission is king.
And money is the most important thing, so that's what drives it. So I think that's what one of the things is, having a goal and knowing where you're going. Because when you focus on like day to day, for example, like during those dips, when you're down, and if you focus on just today, you are just seeing that you're down. But if okay, fine, what, I still have 9 more months of this year to get there. It's so much time.
And I think you've had the ability to see what Katerina was 3 months ago or 6 months ago versus today, and where you're going 3 months or 6 months from now.
And that's measurable.
We're going the right way.
And exactly. And that's super helpful too, because just understanding that, when you look back and just say, what, this is.
You were excellent off the bat, but I do remember some of our conversations when you first came to the team versus the context of our conversations now. And they're very different. They're very different in a good way. You're not going to ask the kind of questions that you did, and you should have when you first came on, because you're well past that now. It just shows the growth and the trajectory. And again, the trajectory that I'm referring to isn't just commissions earned, which certainly that's part of it. Right. You've clearly earned more commissions now than you were then, and it's going to continue to snowball. But it's how you're getting there and your ability to build relationships, which is kind of the next thing that I was going to talk about. Is besides the other things that we talked about with your attitude, your ability, which I think is part of attitude, but your ability to build relationships with people, not just clients, but other people in the industry, off the team, and certainly within the team, myself, Alfredo, our agents. You're likable to a 10th degree because you do things that bring out, I guess, positive things in other people. Have you always been that way? How have you built relationships throughout your life, I guess is what I'm getting at. And have there been certain things in your life that assisted that process? Because that's something that seems to come pretty natural to you.
I think positivity. I always try to stay positive no matter what. And when I was little, I was reading a lot of jokes, and that's one of the things I had was like just telling jokes. So, I needed that for myself, like to make myself laugh and others. So that's how, when I was younger, that's what my positivity was. And I think also, when learning and excelling, and that's what, many people talk about, that you have to be positive and yourself, because with negativity, it's going to be harder to get anywhere. So that's why
that's one thing I didn't know about you for a few weeks. I'm sure you know, because you're pretty.
Her jokes are very
she's
dry.
Funny. You're really funny. And when you said a couple things initially, I'm like, did she mean that to be funny? Because that was actually really funny, but I didn't know that was
subtle with her jokes. Though she'll just it's very
it's
dry.
Almost dry.
Yeah. It's like that was really funny. I remember one. I'm not going to share it, but one of you had me rolling on one of those early on.
It's very, the timing is good, and I think, and again, that's you said it, but that's going to be part of the relationship once the clients get to know that side of you. And I think that took a little bit of time to be like, okay, I can be me. And that was me when I started with real estate. I did a lot of condos. It's very numeric. It's square foot. Oh, the home above you sold for this. And I would ask clients for feedback, both positive and negative. And oftentimes some of the negative feedback I get would be, you're a little cold. You come in and these are the numbers. And I was a statistics guy, right? And I studied statistics in college, but I'd say, this is the number. Nope, sorry, that's the number. And I don't care that you upgraded your bathroom 3 years ago. It wasn't, I didn't let myself be me because I felt like that was unprofessional, which it's not. And you did a good job right away of adjusting.
Well, I think that's the one thing that she's going to be unlocking even more as she gets more comfortable too, because when she's with us, she's very natural and very funny. And the more that she's out and getting more confidence and experience, she's just going to be able to emulate that with the clients, and that's going to be awesome.
That's what I'm trying, because remember we looked at my second statistics, and I was like, okay, what can I do? And I actually started joking. So
Yeah, you had asked me, I think, like, is it okay? I'm like, absolutely, you're funny. Like, let's go.
I mean, very, little, but not.
Yeah, no, it's not a joke the whole time, but just throwing out a little humor to lighten up the mood, icebreakers. I mean, 100%.
With regards to the team, and you were an individual agent prior to joining the team, we've said a lot of things that makes you such a good teammate and why people gravitate towards you. What do you feel as though the team has offered you as far as benefits, or what was the changes you noticed between being a single agent and a team?
It was, completely life-changing experience. I don't like changes that much, and I'm a very loyal person. So, and the broker I was with before, I love them. They're family friends. They're amazing people, and extremely grateful for everything. But I was by myself. There was support from them, but if you compare that support to what we have, I don't. And it's harder for, I think, everybody to motivate yourself. And when you're in a team, and especially when you have so much motivation, from you guys, like sending messages, it's like, I love that. I absolutely love it. Sunday morning, I'm if I have later appointments, I'm just waking up and I see like your message, like go, like get it. And like I've done already, 200 follow-ups, went to the gym and everything. And it's like, it's super helpful. And when I was by myself, it was lonely. I remember when I just joined the team, there was a lunch that I was invited to, and I was so happy because that's what I had, in especially in fashion industry. We had like dinners everywhere, and I was like, oh my God, here it is, finally actually being surrounded by people. And going back to when I met Alfredo through an appointment, and he said, are you interested? And I wasn't interested into learning anything because I had, a family friend broker who is there. It's a couple and they're incredible people. And I said, let me just hear what is the difference. And it was just having a team. Like, I mentioned that. And in that aspect, there is support. I remember when I was by myself, I went to Florida and I got a call and someone wanted to see 900.
Yeah, that was the worst as a single agent.
I
remember getting ready for my honeymoon,
and
a guy named Sheldon, he's still a close friend of mine, but he stepped up at the last minute because a guy was supposed to cover me. I covered him. And then a week before, I don't hear from him. A few days before, I'm stressing out. I'm getting married, right? And then I'm flying out. No word. Oh, I think I'm too busy. I would do a disservice to your clients. I'm out of the country on my honeymoon.
Yeah.
Like, I have no way. And back then there really wasn't cell service great. So it's
definitely
like,
did a disservice.
Oh man, so that was just like, all right, I need someone that, I can formulate around us so that we always have each other. Because it's an industry that, in my experience getting in and coming from the venture capital where you were in a group and everyone supports everyone, you have a common goal. And we would get shares of stock and bonuses based on performance, and it's all tied to each other. I came to a real estate office and I was a single agent and literally making copies. And I mentioned this on the podcast before, but coming back and seeing someone look at my client information, like basically, can I steal that client, kind of thing. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is like shark infested waters. At some point, sometime down the road, I'd like to be able to have enough business to offer others opportunities to work with me that I can trust, that's kind of in this circle on a team, right? That's what a team is we have each other's backs. And you always step up if people are going away. Again, we already talked about this, but you're the first one in the group mess. Oh, I'll cover you. So if you go away, you better get a lot of coverage, so
it's, it's support.
We have a question actually when you're finished.
It's a support, and it's also the amount of learning information you guys give is incredible. It's the opportunities to ask questions. Sometimes I have like stupid questions and I don't want to, text one of you with one of the stupid, it's like, it's not one of those questions like important ones, but it's kind of like, what would you rather do? It's not something that is discussed by text or, even phone call, but that, we have Monday night meetings. We have, Monday afternoon meetings. We have Thursday meetings. And I'm there just because there's always something to learn. And you don't really get that at all as a new agent.
That's what I was saying yesterday in the group message. There's doers and there's not.
Right.
If you're doing all those things, it almost becomes difficult to not succeed with the systems that we have in place and what we're offering. The fact that you have the other attributes we've spoke about that some people just don't is just going to propel you even quicker. What was the question?
So this segues nicely into, because Katerina is always volunteering. She's always volunteering herself, like you said, and she's always at my meetings, almost always. And she is almost always the only one that, or one of the only ones that has questions, or what topic are we, because the way that I structure our meetings is sometimes I'll have a general topic that we want to go over, but really I want the agents to come to me with, hey, this is a problem that maybe I wrote it down on Friday and now we're talking
Which,
about
by the way, I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to say the fact that you ask these questions, I've had a handful of agents come to me privately and they've said, and there was one other agent that they mentioned asking questions as well, but we're glad they asked those questions. Some people aren't comfortable in those group settings asking the questions, but they have the same questions. So the fact that you're able to ask them and they're able to be addressed and everyone's learning, that's just another.
Yeah. And I think that's why those meetings are nice, because like the weekly call, some people are definitely uncomfortable to
even
ask
me,
that.
during the weekly call.
Yeah, I'll ask, is there any questions? 99% of the time, no one says
yeah,
anything.
no one has any questions. Right?
Yeah.
But it's just uncomfortable. It's not the fact that they don't have questions.
But I do get text messages within 30 seconds. Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question was, how do you, given all we discussed, how do you go about structuring your day? We had some interest in knowing that.
I'm still learning, and I think it's okay. So what I try to do is select 1 or 2 days to just follow-ups, and then the rest of the time is kind of day-to-day activities. But thank God my kids are in school, so as soon as I get home, I drop them off. It's just working. So I don't really have structure as of yet. I think one of the toughest things actually with real estate, and I really want structure, let's put it this way, but you schedule certain things, and then someone calls you, and then
they got to change, they got to cancel, reschedule.
You're talking about all the curveballs that get thrown at you during the day.
And
absolutely.
I don't want to, I have stopped really structuring, but I actually am following your advice. I think that's what you said, or maybe Steve, but I believe it was you. Pick a day where you follow up, and that's what I started with.
Yeah. More importantly, it's whatever else is going on. It's an hour, it's 2 hours where the phone is.
And that's what people neglect. One, it's a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but it's tedious, right? Following up. But if you don't follow up, and you don't follow up more than the other guy or other girl, they're going to get the client. And so people are and we just spoke about one agent who goes out and perhaps shows a home. And if the agent has more interest or shows more interest or indicates they have more interest in selling that particular property versus the relationship, which was what we said is excellent about you building those relationships, it's never going to work. You're never going to go out and try to sell the first house, and people focus on that. Whereas that's where the follow-ups come because if you're doing the right thing, you're building a relationship, it requires significant follow-up and value add. As long as you're doing the follow-ups and adding value, there should be some level of correspondence, as long as you stay on top of the file like you should.
The stats definitely don't support selling that first house, that's for sure.
No.
So knowing that, but it happens. But over time, how many appointments, right? So it's knowing that, it's like what your goal is.
If you had 2, we're probably equal. Because I think it's only happened to me a couple of times in all the sales.
It's actually, I think it was my first client ever. Was I was like, oh, this is great. But over time, you're like, realize that statistically it does not happen. So you just which informs you that your goal is not doing that. It's a relationship business, which once you lock that up and realize that, then things will change.
You're just a remarkable person in general. We talked about your attitude and your willingness to help other people, and it just resonates throughout the team. And I get so many people commenting, as well as your humor. With the humor, we were going to talk about possibly I don't know if you have one, but a funny story that you might have within the real estate industry.
Can I go back to following up for just a second?
100%.
I think that, it also kind of answers the question about structure. It's hard. It's hard to make yourself start, it's hard to put into that, so, and that's what I believe into pushing yourself. It's going to be, yes, hard first few times, but now following up is easy. My next step is calling, and I told you that I will, and for accountability purposes, I'm starting to call slowly, and it's going to be built. So I think that all of those structure of the day, anything you implement, it's not that easy at first, but you have to push through that.
Well, that was one of the few things you were uncomfortable with too. I taught, I do jujitsu. We all know that. And that you get in very uncomfortable positions that you get numb to. So when the kids first come in and I'm teaching the kids, part of what I tell them is you're going to become very comfortable in uncomfortable positions. Today, it's going to feel very uncomfortable and almost you're drowning and someone's on top of you. You can't get them off because they're skilled and you're not. But over time, you're going to be very comfortable in those very bad positions. And the good news is it's just practice here. It's the same thing. Like even if you start practicing and you're uncomfortable, what's the worst that can happen? You're not as smooth as you want to be on the fall. So what?
Right.
So you're not on national news, right? You were talking to one person probably. And then the next time, maybe it's a little smoother, but over the course of weeks and months and a year or two, it's going to feel like nothing.
Yeah, she's been very good at wanting to push herself, which is excellent.
That's what
out of the comfort zone.
It's resonated. I remember hearing in the podcast you saying that. It's like literally, I remind myself now.
Well, she didn't want to do the podcast initially, right? So she's always pushing herself, which is great.
Which is funny because even with jiu-jitsu, people think it is physical. It's very physically uncomfortable, but it's much more mind, in my opinion. It's much more mentally uncomfortable because once you tolerate the physical pain, it's still someone's there and this is awful and I'm ever going to get out of here and it's dark and so it's that mental just trying to keep calm, knowing that I have enough skills or enough perseverance to push through this. It's the same thing, in my opinion, with follow-ups. Obviously different, but the same in the sense that you're pushing through something that you told me I'm flat out, I'm not comfortable. That's why you were honest, right? I'm not comfortable doing this. And so I know I have to do it, but I'm going to try to start implementing it. And you are.
Yes. And about funny stories. So first I noticed when I remember a couple months ago, I think I was walking in around our neighborhood with my husband and I saw one apartment building and I started telling him all about it, how many apartments there are and like about the square footage of different homes. And all of a sudden I see that he's nowhere to be found. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm telling you very important. And he's like, I don't care. So it's interesting. And then when I go somewhere, I always open Zillow and I always, look around what's for sale. And if there's someone around me, I always tell them and especially if I'm traveling, how it compares to New Jersey market. I had one story where I went into a house and the one in the notes, watch out for the dog. Please don't let the dog out. And I'm terrified of dogs. When I was little, I think there was a dog. I don't remember, but
Something happened.
Yes, exactly. So since then, I have this fear of the dog. And we're actually okay. And I told my clients everybody was okay. But all of a sudden, my client just opens the door and
out goes the dog.
The rest is history.
So I'm running around the town to chase the dog and I'm yelling after it. But I'm naturally yelling after it in Russian. And I'm like, dummy, she doesn't speak Russian. You have to say it in English. And I'm like, what do you even say to a dog which is writing it in English? But then I got it. And
oh, you did get it.
That's got it. Yeah, I was like, don't bite me. It was, but
even though you're afraid of dogs, you still got the dog and still brought it back.
Well,
right, exactly. Yes.
That's pretty much what I had. I appreciate you as a person. I appreciate you as a friend. I appreciate you on my team, our team, and I'm just more than that. I'm so excited for you and for us for the future. It's such a marathon, and I tell agents that sometimes. And there's frustrations and there's waves, and we've talked about that. But I think I have the ability because I've gone through this forced, so to speak, and I'm kind of sitting above now in a helicopter. I see where you're going, and I know there's going to be times that we're frustrated, and I still get frustrated. But I also see that you're doing everything you should be doing, and you're going to be on top. You're already well on their way to the top. Alfredo, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, that was brilliant. Everything you said is exactly what I see in her, and I'm just excited for future growth because I know that's she's always challenging herself, though. There's no question about that.
And learning from the best. That's what I'm here to watch you guys and
appreciate that.
See what you do. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Do you have an Instagram or anything you want to?
Not yet, but I will get it.
Working on that. See, another
at Team Braconi at Braconi. Thank you for watching.
YouTube live, Team Braconi YouTube live. Subscribe. Don't forget that.
Have a great day, and thank you, Katerina. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you.